Good morning. So, we have been on the Essence Drain Contagion Lich for about 10 days now. The build is extremely strong and fun in the current 0.3 patch, and I will most likely come back to that build a bunch of times this league. But after having been on the same build for about a week and a half now, I went on the lookout for something new to do. A build that a lot of people in my stream community wanted me to do next is the Crossbow Lich using the last Lament. The first time I saw this build pop up was right after the release of the last Lament crossbow, when Farham did a build pretty similar to this back in 0.2. The biggest boost in popularity this build has gotten in the current league was from Sauza here on YouTube, who was the first person I have seen utilize the low life mechanic on top of the already existing synergy between the Lich Ascendancy and the last Lament crossbow in the current league. Huge credit to both of these creators that made me and my community aware of the possibilities of this build. For my version, I did a couple of things differently, which I will explain in this video, and I am still in the very, very early stages of developing this build and finding my own way of doing it. So again, huge shout out to Farham and Sauz. Their channels will be linked in the description down below. So going over everything on this character, I am still on the Lich Ascendancy for this build. The Lich is probably my favorite Ascendancy in the game right now. I was definitely planning before the league released to use Essence Drain Contagion on a Lich to go into a Blood Mage build as soon as possible. Right now, and especially how Essence Drain Contagion has been turning out so far this league, the Lich Ascendancy is just amazing. I really want to do more builds on the Lich Ascendancy especially, so this is why we are still on it and why we chose to do the crossbow build next. So, level 96 Lich, we have 1700 life, 3k energy shield, we have a mana, which doesn't really matter for this build. You will see we don't really have mana cost. I can show you already, our main damage skill is going to be Galvanic Shards here. We don't have any mana cost for that. We have 185 spirit. This is the first thing that differs my version from the version that Sauza was doing. I will explain everything in the skill gem section. And we have 91 strength. This is just enough to wear our last Lament here. We also have high dexterity and some high int. You will see in the skill gem section why we need all of these. On top of our 3k energy shield, we have 52% evasion, we have some armor as well, and we also get some deflection from our body armor on top of that. So it might not seem very, very tanky here. It definitely is. Apart from the Lich Ascendancy, which provides us with Eternal Life, and the corresponding 10% damage taken bypasses energy shield. And we basically get a damage reduction from that because as soon as we have energy shield, or as long as we have energy shield, 10% of damage taken bypasses energy shield. Our life cannot change with Eternal Life, so that is a 10% flat damage reduction. We are pretty tanky with the energy shield of 3000 and evasion rating and deflection and some armor. It does not seem very tanky, but having been playing this build all day on juiced maps, on Simulacrum, everything, this seems way more tanky than it seems at first glance. We are, of course, completely elemental res capped here, 75 fire, cold, and lightning, and chaos res capped is basically the next project here. We still need to make some adjustments to the gear. Like I said, this is the very, very, very early stages of me actually going into this build and trying to find my own way, and also developing some stuff on it. So we are still on the very early stages here, so chaos resistance is probably going to be the next project. So going over the skill gems, why do we go low life? If you have followed my Essence Drain Contagion Lich build, or if you have seen that build, even if you are not following yourself, why is low life good? So 35% of your maximum life, in this case it is 1732, so you need to be below 35%. So I am at 567 life here to be low life. Why is that good? There are a bunch of reasons on the passive tree why low life is so good. First reason is a node like this, Killer Instinct, 40% increased attack damage when on full life, but 60% increased attack damage when on low life. So that is already 60%. We have another one right here, down below here, 25% attack damage while surrounded. Not only, I will go over the whole surrounded thing in a little bit when we go over the gear, because we are also using Constricting Command, but also 25% attack damage when on low life. Just like this node right here as well, and another surrounded node right here. Another reason why low life is so good is because there is a new rune in the game called Tekrit's Gaze. This is 10% increased movement speed when on low life, as opposed to the rune that gives you 5% movement speed when on low life, which is like multiple divs right now. This rune is very, very cheap, and it is double the amount of movement speed than the very expensive 5% movement speed rune. So once we are low life, we have 10% movement speed just from this rune. On boots with 100% increased effect, that is already 20% movement speed just from this one rune. We, at it as it stands right now here, we have 85% movement speed completely unbuffed. This is without these nodes, for example, the Adrenaline Rush nodes. This is without our Rite of Passage, which will give us some extra movement speed. This is without triggering Onslaught from the Fall of the Axe. This is without triggering the Headhunter buffs. So base movement speed of this character is 85%. So you can see how fast we actually are running just as the base level. This is absolutely insane, and we are super, super fast. On top of that, we are barely getting slowed down when we're shooting. Sauza did a version where you don't get slowed down at all while shooting, due to him going with the decreased movement speed penalty while shooting. I have decided to go with a little bit of a different version where we do slow down a little bit while shooting, which is, in my opinion, very, very minuscule, and we get some nice bonuses instead of that. So, going over all the skill gems, we are, of course, using Requiem, and I didn't even mention the best reason why we go low life on this build, and that is the use of skill gems here. The first skill gem that makes this build just incredibly good on low life is the new Execute 3 support gem, which gives us 30% more damage against enemies that are low life, but also 30% more damage overall when we are low life. So this is just a 30% damage increase for any skill that we can use it on, just like that. And when the enemy is low life on top of that, so below 35%, we also get another 30% on top to make it 60% damage increase. The other reason why low life is so incredibly good on this build is the new support of Dire Strike. 70% increased attack damage while on low life, while a supported skill is active, which is in this case where you can just slot it into anything that runs all the time, like Convalescence, for example, here. So 70% increased attack damage again while on low life. So you can see already the amount of stuff that stacks up on this character due to us being low life and having like these little bonuses while being low life is just absolutely insane. On top of that, we are also using the Constricting Command to pick up even more nodes on the passive tree that make us even better. For example, Tactical Retreat here, we get 10% movement speed while surrounded. We get another 25% attack damage while surrounded. We get a 20% attack speed while surrounded, more attack damage again, and more evasion rating while surrounded again. Constricting Command, if you don't know, has the modifier of require X fewer enemies to be surrounded, and if you have the 5 fewer enemies to be surrounded, you will always count as surrounded. So we can pick up these nodes right here, and it is just going to be extremely, extremely good. The next reason why the Lich is so good for this build, and why the Eternal Life node especially is so good in this build, is the use of Death Articulated. Death Articulated makes our rage just being at the max at all times, and most of you probably know that rage is just an incredible damage buff overall, and especially if we use these nodes right here with Battle Trance, we get even more rage, and now we have 48 rage that doesn't go down. Death Articulated makes you lose a lot of life per second usually, but again, we have Energy Shield, we have the Eternal Life node on Lich, we cannot lose life. So, Death Articulated, just upsides for us, insane upside. We get attack speed, we get Chaos Res even, we get massive amounts of rage. Death Articulated on this build, just absolutely crazy and good. So, go over all the skill gems. We are using Requiem for the last Lament here. This is basically our boss killer ability. So when we use Requiem, we just turn it on. We put Rakiata's Flow into Requiem and we just annihilate any pinnacle boss or any map boss or whatever in mere seconds. So Requiem we're using with Execute 3, Concentrated Area, Elemental Armament 2, and Deliberation. And like I said, for the pinnacle bossing, we just put Rakiata's Flow into that and then it is just dead within a few seconds. So Galvanic Shards is our main damage and clear ability for mapping. We are using that again with Execute 3. I'm using it with Mobility, Fork, Innervate, and then Rakiata's Flow. On top of that, we are also using Herald of Thunder, Elemental Focus, Lightning Attunement, Execute 3, Magnified Area 1, and Diala's Desire. We are also using Wind Dancer with Armor Explosion, Corrosion, Poison 2, Maim, and Knockback. We're also using Convalescence to get our energy shield back with cooldown recovery 2 and prolonged duration. And like I already mentioned, we use Dire Strike just as a placeholder in this ability. You can put this into anything that runs all the time, however you want. The main tech that I'm utilizing here that I have not seen anyone do on this build so far is I am using Blasphemy on top here. So Blasphemy paired with Temporal Chains, Slow Potency, Ritualistic Curse, and Magnified Area 2 is the tech that I'm using here on my version. I am using this in combination with Rupture to the Soul here. So, cursed enemies killed by you or by allies in your presence have a 30% chance to explode, dealing a quarter of the maximum life as chaos damage. This is just amazing for clear. Everything just explode. Anything that gets killed by us gets chained basically and gets blown up by Herald of Thunder and the blow up from Rupture the Soul, because everything on our screen basically is going to be cursed by Temporal Chains. This is basically two goods for us because everything around us is going to be affected by Temporal Chains, so everything is going to be much, much slower in attacking us and in running at us, but also everything around us is going to be cursed, so it will be blown up when it dies with Rupture the Soul. So you can see with the way I'm using Temporal Chains here, the curse radius is over 7 meters, which is basically our full screen. So if we go into a map, I can show it a little bit real quick. Let's just get a random map right here. And I can just show it a little bit why it is as good as it is on this. So, not only is it a good defensive layer, but also using Rupture the Soul, it just improves our clear so much. So you can see how big the area actually is. This is also due to the fact that I'm using the Zone of Control nodes in this build as well, which gives us 40% increased area of effect and some curse magnitude as well. And enemies you curse are hindered as well with 15% reduced movement speed. So very, very good on this build in my opinion. So you can see here, as soon as they enter our screen, basically they are cursed with Temporal Chains and just it makes them all so much slower. And as soon as we then just kill one of them, it gets blown up and everything around them just gets blown up on top of that. And it basically creates like a chain reaction with everything on them, with Herald of Thunder and with the Rupture the Soul thing. It is just a massive chain reaction of them exploding into each other and everything is just dying in, yeah, just one pop basically. So the clear is absolutely insane on this with the combination of those skill gems. So that is why I decided to try it out this way. Like I also said, I am using the Constricting Command here, which I haven't seen Sauza use, for example. So it is definitely something that I will be developing on, and it is 100% something that I want to keep trying out here. So for the gear, like I said as well, Last Lament, of course, we are using Death Articulated Constricting Command. We are also using Headhunter and a Rite of Passage Golden Charm. You can already see very, very expensive build. This is not a cheap build. This is definitely one of the more expensive builds in the game right now, but you can also see in the performance how it looks and how fast it is and how fucking absolutely crazy it is. So yeah, not a cheap build, but a very, very, very fun one. I will definitely try to do a budget version of this after I try everything out on this build and try find some new avenues to do, or maybe find the min-max version of this build. I would definitely try to do a budget version of this, but as it stands right now, it is a very, very expensive build. You need 185 spirit for the version that I'm doing here. And yeah, Headhunter, Death Articulated, Constricting Command, one of the, or 3 of the most expensive uniques right now in the game. So a very, very expensive build, but a very, very, very fun one, definitely. On the passive tree, which I will be linking in a Mobalytics in the description of this video as well, you can also see the full passive tree, of course. We are using Crystalline Phylactery as well, which is very, very good for this build because you can use an emerald like this. We can get movement speed on everything. We can get projectile damage, increased damage against hits and unique enemies. We can get attack speed with crossbows. We can get damage with crossbows on emeralds. So there is a lot of stuff to do here, especially with movement speed stacking. This is just absolutely crazy. I really, really want to try and make this even faster with some more runes. There are so many options still. I can try to slot... I'm kind of broke right now, I think. Yeah, I have 2 divines left after trying to make this build work. So we can definitely get some more movement speed if we slot in another 5% movement speed rune here. If we get some more emeralds with movement speed, and we can make this probably even faster. Yeah, like I said, if you want to follow my build progress on this build, and if you want to follow what I will be doing with this build and what I will be developing on this build, just drop a subscribe or comment to my stream, where I stream this build and Path of Exile 2 every single day. That is the best way to stay up to date if you want to follow me in this build, or if you want to try your own version, or if you have some theory crafting as well that you want to do. I will be on this build for now, and I will develop everything on this, and I will try to find new stuff to discover and whatever. And yeah, we will just develop it together basically on stream. So if you want to be with that, just join the stream on Twitch TV, where I stream every day. That is going to be it. As soon as something changes about the build, the Mobalytics will be updated. As soon as something changes, I will do another update video on this build as well. And when we are actually finished with this build at some point, then there is going to be the full build guide. So, thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one. Love you. Bye.